Clancy Venables, my co-announcer and good son, has told me something very interesting. Ben Edwards has only done 10 laps of racing on his tyres. He's got more tyre under him than anybody else. And he's starting off the back of the grid, but we'll wait and see how it unfurls. So he's had mechanical problems all weekend, and he's starting off the back of the grid. The front two guys have used a lot of tyre. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this race unfurls over 21 laps. Trust me. Ready, set, go. Good start from Pitum, and it's like a pinball in the machine. There is a massive accident in the middle of the straight, and oh gee, they have gone around. Ben Edwards has destroyed his go-kart at the end of the straight. It's just gone around and around. It looks like the steering is just completely disintegrated, and he just can't. Oh no, I might be wrong. No, I might be very wrong. He's managed to keep it going, but no, he's driving off. Looks like the front wheel's broken on the stub axle. So a massive accident at the end of the straight on the outlap. Everybody tried to go left, and they just smashed each other to bits. That's exactly what happened. So all the scenario that we were looking for didn't unfurl. And Scott Kissock leads from Ross Miller. And there's a massive amount of waving down there. There's something wrong down the end of the circuit. There's a massive amount of waving going on. So I'm not too sure what that's all about. Reese Knott's actually in trouble, or there's some sort of major problem down there, but there's a lot of waving down there. Whether it was just at what happened, but basically what happened when they went green, the guys on TV will be able to show it to you on the replay throughout the weekend, but when it went green, everybody went left and they got hooked together big time. Okay, Scotty Kissock leads them away in the 14 from Ross Miller in the 90. And then from Ross Miller comes Matt Hall, I reckon, is the next one in the run. There's a few angry drivers out there. Ben Edwards is not a happy chappy. He's letting somebody know what really went on. So there's a few unhappy drivers there. Ben Edwards just walking across the circuit now as we speak. So Kissock's our race leader. Ross Miller in the 90 brings it on from Matt Hall. Paul Pitum's got a massive job in front of him. He was tied up with the initial spin also. So Pitum goes through. Adam Williamson right on his tail. Matt McRae in the 97. Matt McRae just had a brilliant pre-final, got himself on the front row, and his whole race went egg-shaped from there on. So, so Matty McRae's days just went egg-shaped. He's found himself back down the back of the grid. And Jedson Jakovic, who we thought would be really, really strong in this one, hasn't produced the numbers on old tyres that we expected him to. And Jed's go-kart looks pretty bent up at the front, so he may have well and truly been tied up with that first corner incident. But Scott Kissock leads him away, and he's doing it comfortably out in front with Ross Miller, Matt Hall, and then Paul Pitum. Paul Pitum's the one to watch in the 99 with the blue helmet. He's the one who in the orange helmet, should I say. He's the one who should be able to put some real big numbers together and start to close up. Pitum's over the top of the curbs and working the go-kart to the maximum. Slides it down under the copy shop sign. We're tipping that Paul in another 2 or 3 laps will just be on those guys in front. What Paul's going to be conscious of is how much tyres under the go-kart and how much he's got to use. Ross Miller's had a look over his shoulder, and so did the 69 of Matt Hall. And Paul Pitum goes through. He's continuing to close. He's certainly got rid of the toe on the back of him, of Adam Williamson. Pitum starting to move up through the pack. Scotty Kissock was the fastest qualifier in the 14, and he continues to put out his strong driving performance. So as you can see, Pitum's closing the gap on the guys. Now he needs to get a good clean pass so he can continue his run. He doesn't want to be sliding the go-kart around too much and using a lot of tyre, because the yellow tyre can disappear very quickly on you. So here we go. Pitum drops his head behind the NASA panel and continues his chase. Top end of the circuit, Ross Miller is the guy in second place, and Matt Hall. Pitum should go now. No, he doesn't. He stays on the back of Hall. They come off the corner, and Pitum is right there. He's pushing Hawley along as they go down. I'd expect Paul Pitum to have a look under brakes. No, he can't. So Ross Miller's just got him queued up momentarily. Paul Pitum goes now underneath Hall. Good clean move. Gets the drive out. I think he'll switch back and try and get some drive onto the straight and come out next to Ross Miller. And he didn't quite get next to him, but he got the draft he wanted. Pitum will slide it down and pick up second place. Now, has he got enough tyre and is there enough run left for him to go after Scotty Kissock? What a dream story it will be if he can catch Scotty Kissock. Okay, Paul, he's got the ears pricked, as they say in racing terms, and he's on the march. So Paul Pitum in the 99. Scott Kissock, it's the race to lose. It's not the race to win for Scott at the moment. It's the race he can lose, because here comes Paul Pitum. Jed Sajakovic starting to get better, and Matt McRae is now getting into the equation. So it's possible we'll see Matt McRae recover something out of this race meeting, but Paul Pitum's going to do it on his own. He's not going to get any toe out of this one, so he'll just have to keep working along. Scott Kissock probably needs to check where he is in the race now. Across this corner will give him an idea where he is in terms of performance against how Paul Pitum's going. But you can see how Paul Pitum's driving away from Ross Miller, and he is really putting some big numbers together. Not even at half race distance, so there's a lot of racing to go and a lot of things can happen, but we'll wait and see how it unfurls. So Matt Hall just went past Ross Miller, and Williamson's hit the tyre barrier mega, and he got off the edge of the track and the verge of the track, and he just couldn't control the go-kart. So we need to have a serious look at the verges of the track. So here we go, top end of the circuit. And Scott Kissock brings it down from Paul Pitum. So plenty of drama on the previous lap with Williamson going into the tyre barrier. And here's another move from Ross. Matt McRae goes back past. Ross Miller goes through, Matt McRae goes through, and Matt Hall drops off. And I'm not too sure what the outcome was with Matt Hall. So Matt Hall's got some sort of problem. He's lost the airbox, so Matt Hall airbox has fallen off the go-kart, and that's why he's lost his pace. So Matt Hall is in a bit of trouble there down the pack. So here we go, Scott Kissock, Paul Pitum though. Hard under brakes for Scotty Kissock, 11 on the board, so they're half race distance about now, or a little bit further around the corner. From Paul Pitum in the 99, the state title winner from Northern Territory. So Scott Kissock goes through, Paul Pitum goes through, Ross Miller goes through, and Matty McRae goes through in the 74. So Matt's starting to close the gap up. Matt should be able to wheel in Ross Miller, I would imagine, that Matt's got a strong enough performance index that he can do that. So here we go, down through the S as they come. Ross Miller, Matt McRae. We're just watching the battle for third place, seeing how it unfurls. Jed Stajakovic is getting better and better. Oh, Ross Miller's hanged the tail out, got off those curbs. Matt Hall's come in, obviously, with that airbox problem, so he's come in. So they're dropping like 9 pins, as they say, in the game. Top end of the circuit, Scotty Kissock continues his run. I reckon Scott Kissock and Paul Pitum are just matching each other for times. They got 3 or 4 laps of rest, and then they got the sprint to the finish. Both go-karts look very similar, believe it or not. Paul Pitum, the way it carries the jack, and also Scott Kissock's the way it's carrying the jack. Both karts are behaving very similar, so you'd suggest that the tyre wear is about the same, or the tyre indexing is about the same on the two go-karts. But Pitum, what a great drive from Paul Pitum, because he got turned around in that first corner and had to start all over again. The big news is that Matt McRae in the 74 can't get past the 90, and that's allowed the 30 of Jed Stajakovic to get back into the equation. So Jed's just getting better and better as the race goes on. And they go together. Yeah, they both needed to go together there. Matt McRae, I reckon that Ross Miller's run out of tyres, because he's just been burning the tyres up. He's been hanging the tail out everywhere, and I reckon he just run out of tyre. So here we go down the straight. Matt McRae ducks his head. See if he can. Jed Stajakovic will stay with him in fresh air. And so top end of the circuit, Scotty Kissock continues his run. Paul Pitum's obviously closed up a little bit. You can see by that gap we were using at the top end of the circuit, but it may be too little too late. 7 on the blackboard. And we'll have a look at Scotty's kart this time round. Carries a really long jack from the minute he brakes to the minute he goes back to throttle. So it's got plenty of grip levels right there. It carries a jack there also. So does Paul's. So both karts still look the same. So you'd suggest that their tyres are about the same. And what's interesting, Matt McRae's is a bit more flatter on the ground. It got a little bit airborne over the bump, but sat a bit flatter. So we get up to the top end of the circuit, and Scotty Kissock continues his run down through the S's. And Scott's mum's here today, Deb, so she'll be very, very proud of her son's performance. I'll have to give Deb a big welcome. Scott Kissock in 14, Paul Pitum in 99, Matt McRae in 74, Jed Sajakovic in the 30, a little bit of a wounded looking 30 at that. And then Ross Miller resting his tyres in the 90. 5 laps remain. These are the important 5 laps. And they're starting to slide it around down there. And as Matt McRae was slightly locked up at the end of the straight, Scott Kissock brings it down to the Liberty S as Paul comes with him. Across the apex into the second of the Liberty hairpins. Kissock goes back to throttle. Pitum carries a long jack as he goes through the corner. And a big move from Jed, and Jed moves up one on Matty McRae. Matt McRae thinks about sneaking down the inside but can't get there. So this battle down the back's very exciting. Matt McRae comes out of the draft. He should be able to outrun Jed Sajakovic in a straight line, and he does. So 4 laps remain on the board. And Ross Miller just went past Jed Sajakovic at the end of the straight, so there's a big change of order there also. Scott Kissock, 3 to go. Pitum's closing, but he just run out. I think they'll run out of time and laps. So Matt McRae's just got that little bit of break that he needed. And Ross Miller sliding it around and standing it up and having some fun in the 90. So down through the S's, hard on the brakes. Scott Kissock in the 14 with Remo Racing and the Leopard Pro race. Paul Pitum goes through. He's done a magnificent job, Paul. He's driven a long way back to get close to Scott. Matt McRae goes through. Ross Miller, Jed Sajakovic. 2 laps on the board. Last lap board will be shown very shortly. Big squeeze of the brakes. Scotty tips it in, slides it in a little bit early. You can hear the squeal of tyre. Brings it around the Dublin sweeper. Last lap board's presented, so Scott ducks his head on his way through. Paul Pitum has a look, and Matty McRae's hanging on to 3rd place. Not a bad result, Matt, given the up and down performance of the weekend. Losing an engine early in the weekend, and having to use your number 2 engine. That's an effort well done. So down through the S as they come for Scott Kissock. Big squeeze of the brake pedal for the second to last time. Sets the card up for the final run home through the Liberty hairpin. Underneath the Inspector Gadget sign, and picks up a good, nice win. Well done to Scott Kissock. Nuno as he goes across the strike. Great effort by Paul Pitum. Very unlucky on the outlap, but great effort around all. Well done to Matty McRae, comes through in the 74. Jed Sajakovic and Ross Miller. So thank you to Remo Racing for their support of the Pro Leopard, and we'll be out very shortly for the Dunlop and the Junior National Pro race.